Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we actually start with the somewhat interesting things where we're going to be voiding some warranties. Before we begin though, please allow me to put a little bit of a disclaimer. If you have invested a little bit of money into your router, i.e. you bought it at MSRP and your router is still under warranty, I would highly suggest not to do what I'm currently doing. However, if you have found your router in a secondhand store or a refurbished store and you want to just get the most benefit out of your hardware without losing too much money on it, then by all means, I would suggest continue watching this video. And if you're curious enough, even try and have fun with the firmwares that we're going to be discovering. Before we continue, another thing that I want to talk about is that currently there are 3 firmwares that come to mind that are active and very popular and can cover a very wide range of hardware. However, with that being said, you do have to be careful because not every firmware is available for every single router and not every single router can be flashed. So flashing potentially the wrong firmware or flashing a router that's not compatible with your router can cause permanent damage and break it or render it unusable. Let's talk about how then you're going to decide which is the best aftermarket firmware for your router. There's kind of a little bit of a battle on the internet going on, and deciding which is the best firmware for your router is kind of a hit and miss. Well, depending on, first and foremost, hardware compatibility, whether your router is Broadcom or Atheros. Atheros works better, not best, but better with OpenWRT, whereas Broadcom, I have personally experienced better results with both DDWRT and Fresh Tomatoes. Fresh Tomatoes. I'm sorry, Fresh Tomato. There is, for routers that are compatible with both or DDWRT and OpenWRT, there is a huge fight ongoing that in some cases DD is better than Open and Fresh Tomato is better than the other two. Whenever you have a router that's universally compatible with all 3 firmwares, then it's kind of just, personal preference. Try out all of them, see which one you like best, and then go for it. Advantages of having an aftermarket firmware is that your router is going to have a up-to-date operating system running on it. Security is going to be great. You're going to have the most functionality and the most secure, I guess, type of software that's running on your device up to date. However, there are some drawbacks. Please allow me to explain. Some routers, like for example the Netgate R7000. I know I'm referencing a little bit of an older router, but please just allow me to explain. So the R7000 has a, I guess, method of operation when it comes to handling gigabit speeds, because it's only running a dual-core 800 megahertz CPU on ARM architecture, and that on its own is not really enough to push gigabit speeds. However, the fellows over at Broadcom came up with CFE. Some of the proprietary features, I know I'm gonna come back to it a little bit. CTF, cut through forwarding, is a proprietary feature because it uses a Broadcom chip that's embedded on the system board, whereas SF I think it was, which is software flow overflowing, or I don't remember what exactly it stands for, but it's essentially what it is the operation that's normally handled by that dedicated chip for up to gigabit speeds is basically done in software now, and you can't necessarily reach these higher speeds, such as gigabit networking, with SFE or SFO, sorry, as you would with CTF, which is the hardware variant of NAT routing. So it's kind of a hit and miss, really, where you do get more modern software, but you do lose some of the hardware advantages that normally would come with the stock firmware. If your router, however, is end of life and I guess a a security risk, I would suggest go for it. See if you find any noticeable difference, and if it's a noticeable difference to the point where, pardon, it actually bothers you, then I would suggest just buy a newer platform. However, if it's not something that bothers you, then please, by all means, just install it, see how it handles, see if you like it, and experiment, play with the features. This is, after all, a tech channel, so it wouldn't really be much of a tech channel if I don't encourage you to break something and then fix it or figure out how it works. So at the end of the day, it is going to be in your network, it is going to be your gateway. So I would suggest get familiar with it, because the best way for you to learn is for you to break it. That being said, we've already learned how to recover a Netgear router, so let's break a Netgear router. I have Old Faithful, the good old Netgear R6400 V2, and we are going to install Fresh Tomato firmware on it, and then we're just going to explore a little bit, because sadly I still don't have internet connection from the ISP. I'm probably gonna upload this video on my Silk connection, and this maybe it's gonna happen today, maybe it's gonna happen tomorrow, depends on when you guys are gonna see this video. It is what it is. Okay, so I have downloaded the R6400 files. Some routers have a direct flash where you just download the all-in-one package and you just perform a regular software update. Other routers, just like Netgears, due to how the boot processes and how the operating system recognizes certain file extensions, there are it's a two-way process. Basically, you have to do an initial flash, and then from that initial flash, you flash the full release of the firmware. Now, because we are flashing today a Netgear router, we have to go through that two-step process where we are initially going to flash the initial or the base release of the firmware, and then we're going to upgrade to the full release of it. All right, so the first step is obviously connect to your router and power it on. I'm just going to be showing you what I'm kind of doing, and this is going to be giving you guys a live update to me being connected to the router. So I am currently powering it on, and we're just going to pull up command prompt so that we can see what's going on. So since last time, this has remained flashed with the default firmware. So what we want to do initially is we're going to find out what is the IP of our gateway, and that you can do with a good old IP config /renew, which is going to give you it's going to ping the first available DHCP server on the network, in which case it's this little router right here, which is exactly what we want. And because the DHCP server is going to be located onto the router itself, it's also going to give us the router IP as the gateway. So it's still powering on, which is why the switch is kind of cycling power on, power off. All right, so 192.168.1.1 is the gateway for our router. So let's go ahead, 192.168.1.1. So let's go ahead and load into it. As I mentioned, we are still running the manufacturer firmware, not a problem. And we're just going to go through the process of the two-step process of the initial firmware, and we're going to upgrade update to the full featured fresh tomato firmware. So it does take a little bit of time because it is going to try and go through the whole process of um, making sure that there is connection and so on and so on. All right, let's see. What are we gonna do? We're gonna do pass 1, 2, 3. Password 1. It is. Making passwords is the bane of my existence. All right, and we are now logged in the manufacturer firmware. So just like any firmware update, depending on what router you're using, it is going to be located differently, but the general location is somewhere in the advanced settings, device administration, and you should have the router update or update function. So as I mentioned, we do have both the initial and the all-in-one software. Whenever you have the two-stage, please, I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record right now, but do not go to the full release of the software right away. You do risk of breaking your router if it doesn't have file verification or file extension verification. However, with the R6400, it does have a file extension verification, so it will not update to it, kind of like a built-in security feature. So please allow me to demonstrate. Let's go to downloads, and I think all-in-one. Yes, there we go. So if we TRX, interesting. Okay, so let me allow to demonstrate what will happen if we try to update to something that's not necessarily supported. It's going to tell us that the file format is not accepted, and it's going to be looking for the proper file format. So let's go ahead and give it the proper file format by selecting the initial flash file. I'm going to pause the video, and I will be back as soon as it's done. All right, and we are back. The router is fully booted up. However, I currently am still in the old firmware. So how are we going to figure out how to reconnect to it? Just a good old ipconfig /renew, and it will get the new IP scheme and new gateway IP from the router as soon as it responds. There we go. So actually, I need my phone for this one. Hold on just a second. I suppose Netgear is kind of special. The default credentials are username is admin, and the password is @newdig, which, okay, it's just a little random. But we are in the initial firmware of this particular router. So now what we need to do is we need to go back into administration, upgrade, and we are going to, as you can see, it even recognizes that it's the initial firmware. So now we need to go back into downloads, fresh tomato, all-in-one, and then upgrade it one more time. So let's go ahead and upgrade it with the final variant. All right, and the upgrade has just finished installing, and if we go under administration, we are going to see that we are now with the all-in-one release of fresh tomato, and we are essentially running a brand new a completely different aftermarket operating system or firmware onto our router, which ensures that we have up-to-date security features, some extended features that we wouldn't normally have with the manufacturer firmware, and of course a little bit more practicality. It being Linux based, it's a little bit enhanced security. bug fixes that, for example, the manufacturer has never addressed, but for whatever reason have been fixed in an open source project. Right. It At the end of the day, there's the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of having a this particular setup. The first question that I'm probably sure is going to be coming to your mind is then how often do you update, or how do you update, or what do you do now that you're at this stage? Well, it's kind of a debate, really, and some people are going to say, "Oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it," or whatever. Other people are very by the book, and every time there's a release of a new firmware, whether it's a minor revision or a large revision, they just go ham. My personal opinion and what I do with my hardware and stuff like that is I update, rule of thumb, I update every 3 to 4 months. That's pretty, it's pretty reasonable. It's not too out of date, and it's not super often, so it doesn't, I don't go out of my way to update every week or just forget about it, but find a reasonable time schedule for you, something that will work, but don't go out of your way to forget this, because after all, this is a internet facing device, and keeping up to date with security and with features is kind of a big deal. Well, in the sense that it's an internet-facing device, right? You got to be careful with internet-facing devices, no matter what. That's pretty much it. I still don't know how to end these videos. Thank you for watching. I am very conscious of you guys following, commenting, subscribing, all that jazz. Thank you. Your support helps immensely. I am so happy to see every time there's a comment, every time there's a new subscriber. Your help is just extravagant. Thanks so very much for supporting the channel, and I will see you all in the next one.